I'm Jason Gould, and you are watching Life Minute TV.
In the dark of the night, sometimes I just feel like I could dance in the light. Sometimes I just feel like...
One listen to Jason Gould's powerful voice and heartfelt lyrics, and you know you're listening to something special. And how could it not be? Born into Hollywood royalty, his mom is Barbra Streisand, and dad the iconic actor Gould. Yet this humbled, impassioned soul struggled to realize his own talents growing up. The 57-year-old singer-songwriter has just come out with his second EP called Sacred Days, an upbeat dance collection of songs that will leave you wanting more.
Please say it's okay. Say I can come over and make you feel alright. Hey.
We sat down with his uber talent recently in his hometown, LA, to hear all about it and more. This is a Life Minute with Jason Gould.
You know, I started working on these songs about a year ago. The first one I wrote was called Run, which is on the EP coming out.
So you can run, but you can't outrun the truth.
My friend and collaborator Alan Rich, who has written some wonderful songs for Whitney Houston and others, asked me if I was interested in doing dance music. And I had never thought about dance music. I love dance music, but I thought, well, let's give it a shot. And then we wrote Run. And so from there, my creative juices started flowing, and I ended up writing other melodies and working with other lyricists. But I've always been drawn to rhythmic dance music. So there's more of that in this collection of songs than I've probably explored before.
It's definitely different from like Dangerous Man.
You're a dangerous man.
And this is all original material. I wrote all these songs, whereas my past releases were mostly covers and a couple original songs. So I'm definitely going further into myself and having a good time.
And how would you describe your sound?
I follow my instincts musically, so I've always been a kid who would sit at the piano and come up with melodies when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. But I never had the skills to be able to craft it into a real song. And it wasn't until quite a few decades later that I actually took a workshop and started to learn, and then met other songwriters and collaborated. And the first song I put out into the world that I had co-written was called Morning Prayer. It's on the first EP I did.
Oh, my love, you are my morning prayer.
The lyricist I worked with on that song, Liz Vidal, and I wrote 4 of these songs together. So she and I have a special connection. You know, when you hear them, you'll see.
Sacred Days.
Sacred days beside you in the sunshine, washing over me like rain.
All of these songs were created in a very organic way. It started with a melody. That's where I generally start with songwriting. I come up with a melody that I like, and sometimes in the process there are words or even phrases. It's a really interesting experience to write this way, where you show up in a writing session, you don't know, you have nothing. Like, you don't have a preconceived idea. That's how I like to work. And I have to relax, be so sort of relaxed and surrendered, so that I become almost like a channel. Like, this thing wants to get born through me, the melody. It either feels right or it doesn't. And when that flow happens, often there are parts of the song that are just delivered. The titles of a lot of these songs came through in that first pass. When that melody comes through, it's not like I'm thinking about the notes, I'm thinking about an idea. It's not about that. It's about being so relaxed, so surrendered to the creative state, whatever it is. I mean, it's a mystical, spiritual experience, really. But I think a lot of writers probably work this way. It's just I found that this is how I enjoy doing it, not from an intellectual place.
How do you get to that place? Like, how do you relax?
Well, I'm a meditator. I started meditating probably in 2008 or 9. And so for me, meditation is a daily practice that I've been doing ever since. And if I don't meditate in the morning, it would be like going out of my house and not brushing my teeth. I would just feel off. So it's a big part of how I stay grounded and how I connect to myself and to what's real. I'm a seeker. I've always been a seeker of, well, I'm a seeker of peace, that's for sure, but I'm a seeker of truth, and I've always been an observer of, like, people. Ever since I was a kid, I haven't been somebody who necessarily wanted to be in the spotlight, but I was somebody who was always watching. I've met some amazing people along this journey. And I was born into a kind of unusual, kind of special thing. So it was like I was trying to make sense of this world that I was born into and the world at large. And so I've always been an observer of people. And I'm probably like an armchair sociologist, you know, a backseat sociologist or something. Not that I have a degree in it, but I have so much experience watching that I think I see through a lot of BS. You know, I know what feels true, what feels right, and I'm drawn to that. It's all that for me. And music is an expression of my instincts.
I mean, obviously, you know, your mom is, you know,
Yeah.
a national treasure.
Yeah.
Your dad, an icon. What was that like growing up into that? And did you know you wanted to follow? I mean, because you act as well, so did
Yeah.
you know you wanted to do that?
You know,
or-
I was thinking about it. I was conceived, I believe my mother was doing Funny Girl on stage.
Oh, my man, I love him so. He'll never know. All my life is just a spare, but I don't care.
So I was in her body as she's singing these great songs. And then I think she recorded her Christmas album while she was pregnant with me. Music is just a part of my DNA. I'm musical, you know, but I was also afraid of exploring that part of myself for so long. I think I was afraid of being compared, judged, not good enough. You know, when you have an icon as a parent in that field, it was like, well, where would I? And I didn't have the confidence either. So it took me years as I got to know myself and worked on myself and walked through some of my fears that I started to explore my own musicality in a deeper way. And so it unfolded, all of this unfolded so organically. It was not a plan. I never thought I would sing in front of anybody, honestly. I thought that maybe that part of myself would just be shut down and I would keep it to myself. And what I realized is that had I done that, it probably would have slowly killed me. Because I think when you have that need to express yourself creatively through music or whatever it is, and you don't use it, I think it's like curdles inside. It's like a slow death. Yeah. Because I think that needs to be born through you, you know.
Absolutely.
I was also
Yeah.
thinking about like artists, you know. I think artists know pain. I think artists use their pain to create. Part of why I think a lot of people who are artists have had really difficult childhoods, traumas. It's a way of like taking the pain of life and turning it into something that actually helps other people, touches other people. So there's purpose, there's goodness in it, you know. And I mean, the most I could ever hope for was just to give anybody a sense of peace or, you know, a sense of connection to the human condition that we all struggle with.
When was it when you said, oh yeah, I am going to do this, I could do this?
The way this unfolded was not a plan. I had started to write songs collaboratively with other people, and then I wanted to try singing a song, recording a song that I hadn't written but that I liked and that I thought I could do something different with. And that song was How Deep Is the Ocean?
How deep is the ocean? How high is the sky?
So I had recorded my version of the song with Stefan Oberhoff, a wonderful collaborator that I had worked with on my early music, and I shared it with my mother. I'd never sung in front of her, and so evidently when she heard it, she was sort of shocked, and she said, I want to sing this with you.
And if I ever lost you, how much would I cry? How deep?
And then a few months later, I believe she decided to put together a tour and asked me if I would go on the tour with her and sing this song. And I thought, I don't know if I could do this. I mean, I've never sung in front of anybody. How am I going to sing in front of a stadium of 18,000 people? But that's where the meditation And the prayer came in, because had I not had that, I don't know that I could have done it. Because I wasn't somebody seeking to be in the spotlight or that kind of attention. I mean, I was exploring my musicality for myself. It wasn't because I was seeking fame or that attention.
How high is the sky?
So that's where this comes for me. It's really not about that, it's about this.
Well, clearly, you know, your videos are so powerful too.
Thank you.
World Gone Crazy in particular, which is just out.
It's a crime, all the pain, all the loss. In a world gone crazy that humans caused.
Well, again, the creative process of that song was, I didn't intend to write a song about the insanity of what's going on in the world at this time. And it was also before the events of October 7th. So it wasn't written about what was going on in the Middle East. But there's nothing new about that story. I mean, human beings have been killing each other for centuries, for millennia. And so I just was disturbed, as so many of us are, by what's going on in the world, by the nature of politics nowadays, and how people don't know what's true, the manipulation of the truth. And so that song, that melody was first born, and again, some of those words came through, including World Gone Crazy was part of, when I channeled that song, parts of those words were there, including World Gone Crazy. So then it was like, that's what this song wanted to be. And so Liz and I worked, how do we help it be what it wants to be? It's like honoring this thing, this song. It's like, you know, it's like you have a child and like, you gotta send it to the right school, you know? And a song is sort of like a short film. It's just you're telling the story with sound as opposed to visuals. And then when it came time to, I wanted, because I had a vision for that video. How do I make, I just saw it in my head. I saw part of it in my head, and then it was a matter of how do you create it. We did it on such a low budget. You know, I found this place downtown where you could shoot against a large LED screen. I've never done that before, didn't even know how to do it. And we had like a few hours to do this. I mean, technically challenged. The DP was wonderful, but he showed up with the wrong camera. No monitor, and so we made the best of it.
Wow,
you know?
you'd never know, it's beautiful.
Thank you. So,
Powerful.
yeah, sometimes, you know, art gets born by you not having much to work with. You
And
make
scrappy.
the best of it, exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly.
So good. Did you always have these convictions that you have?
I'm a proud liberal. I believe in human rights and dignity for all peoples. I look at the children on both sides of the conflict in the Middle East, and my God, the death, the devastation, the destruction has just been so devastating. So that video that song is about that. It's just my pain, my frustration that I know so many people are feeling. Like, what do we do about this? How is this happening? And what can we do about it? And I know, because I don't believe in violence. I'm not somebody who supports violence. If you look at my Instagram, you see I post a lot of quotes by people. And I think it was Gandhi that said, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. So at some point, we have to rise above this kind of stuff. Otherwise, we are on a path of destruction, the human race. And there's so much beauty here on this planet, you know. There's so much to be grateful for, and yet so many people are suffering so extremely. So I see that pain, I feel the pain, and I guess this song is an expression of that.
Your voice is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Did you ever have voice lessons?
I did take some voice lessons because I literally was so afraid to use my voice. I needed a place to practice that, you know, because I really didn't know if I had a good voice. I didn't know. You know, my mother has such a great voice. She's such a iconic, she's so powerful in her voice, and she's made some incredible music. You know, I didn't know if I was good enough.
What did you do, like go in the closet and like sing? Like, what did you do? How could you not know? It's crazy.
I wasn't sure, you know, I mean, I'm somebody who can be very hard on myself. I mean, I'm someone who has been very hard on myself, and part of my journey is to be more loving to myself. And, you know, get me on certain days, and, you know, what I see in the mirror I may not like. And other days, you know, I can appreciate what I see in the mirror. Same with my voice. I don't always like the sound of my voice, but I heard Cher saying, I'm not really a fan of Cher, you know, she doesn't like her own voice. I understand that. But if it touches other people, and I've experienced that it has, that's really powerful. I just want to remind people that, you know, we're all human. And it's hard to be human. You know, we all have our traumas and our struggles. Just a reminder that, you know, you're not alone in it means sometimes the difference between life and death. So I look at my music as just sort of an offering. Maybe this will touch your heart for a moment. Maybe this will soothe your soul for a moment.
Do you think people are hard on you because they expect you to, you know, they expect that?
Well, I think that's why I haven't really enjoyed performing, is because sometimes I feel like people would come to see me, but they would compare me or judge me based on my mother. And that doesn't feel good to me. So I've really sort of, even though I explored performing, it's not something I really enjoy. So I love to create music, I love to work in the studio, I love to collaborate with other people. But getting on stage in front of like an audience to me is like, not my favorite.
I love your dad. I watch him every night on Friends
Oh,
or
yeah.
Grace and Frankie, my two favorite shows.
I think he was on that too, wasn't he?
Yes.
I haven't seen that, but
I think I heard that you've never seen Friends.
Well, it's not true that I've never seen Friends. I've seen parts of Friends. You know, I had auditioned for Friends. I was told I almost got one of the roles. What I've seen is very funny. They're wonderful. The writing's fantastic. I mean, I'm just not generally a huge fan of sitcoms. It's just not my thing. I would rather watch a documentary, you know. I love documentaries for sure, but I also love certain dating shows, like reality dating shows. Oh my God, I can get sucked
Love
into
is
this.
Blind, right? I know.
I watched
me
the
too.
first few seasons of Love is Blind. I recently started watching like The Bachelorette, The Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise. Oh my God.
I haven't seen those.
It's like junk food, but it's kind of fun.
All right, you grew up in New York and now you're in LA.
I actually grew up in LA. I was born in New York. I was conceived in London. I spent a lot of my life in LA, but also New York too. Yeah, I guess I'm a New Yorker at heart. You know, I was born there. I was a weird kid. I mean, I was moving with my mother, you know, so I would be, wherever she was making a movie, I would be with her probably. So that took me to Africa when I was 5 years old. I remember being in New York when I was like 11 years old, because my mother's boyfriend at the time, John Peters, was producing this movie called Eyes of Laura Mars. So for half the year, I think it was 5th grade, I was going to school in New York. There was a wrap party for that movie, and the wrap party was at Studio 54. So I was in my velour sweater, and I was at 11 years old at Studio 54, and I remember, now I loved disco music at the time. My best friend and I used to go to like sober discos, like for underage kids. You know, they didn't serve alcohol.
Did they have those?
Yes, they did. We went to them. So I found myself at Studio 54 at 11.
Oh my goodness.
And this like giant spoon came down from the ceiling, and I thought, what is that?
Wow.
So I've met some really interesting people, had some wild experiences, and you know, when you have some distance with this stuff, you realize, wow, I've been around.
I know, my gosh, like, God, how you turned out, you could have been, you're
It's
so
tr-
grounded and
Thank
like,
you, thank you, thank you. I know a lot of people in my position might have been dead or, you know, drug addicts. I mean, I saw it all the time, and I lost a lot of friends who weren't born into the circumstances I was, who did not make it past 50.
What do you attribute that to? Is it parenting or just, you're just an old soul? And
I am an old soul, but also I think my greatest ambition was to transcend some of my own inner struggles. Freedom, like freedom is my greatest ambition. So freedom to be myself authentically. And exploring music was of course part of how I got there, because that was a part of me that I hadn't really honored, I hadn't explored. I just want to be at peace in my own skin, and I am for the most part, except sometimes in traffic. I am, you know, I can be quite impatient. That's probably my greatest weakness, is my impatience. And technically, I'm a little challenged, as I told you in the elevator. But other than that, I know who I am. I am at peace with myself, and a lot of that came through the meditation.
And congratulations again on your amazing work.
Oh, thank you
I'm
so
excited
much.
for it.
I hope people discover it, find it, and enjoy it.
To hear more of this interview, visit our podcast, Life Minute TV, on iTunes and all streaming podcast platforms.